Hey guys, I'm Jacqueline.
And I'm Marcella.
And today we have 20 romance book recommendations.
Yes.
So we've been wanting to film this video for a long time because you guys know, we talk about it all the time, we read a lot of romance. Like that's all we read is romance. And we're very big readers, obviously. So now we're really excited to tell you some of the 20 that you should definitely pick up.
Yes.
The first one I want to talk about is Transcendence by Shea Savage. So when I tell you what this is about, you're going to be like, what the hell are you reading?
Yeah, when Jacqueline told me what it was about, I was kind of like,
why?
really?
So this is a caveman romance, but it's like time travel. So it's like this girl from our time, she basically something happens where she ends up in like the Stone Age and she meets this caveman and it's literally just their life together. And I think what makes this book so good and so touching is that it's in his point of view and he can't communicate with her through language. So like you have to use like context clues to figure out what she's trying to say to him. And yeah, it's so interesting and I love that book.
Yeah, I have to read that way I can understand.
It's so good.
Yeah.
It really is. Like I'm telling you, you don't think it's good, but it's amazing.
The next book that we want to talk about is Punk 57 by Penelope Douglas, and this book was so good.
It's so angsty.
So, yeah, this is probably the most angsty book that I read. It almost reminds me of like the angst that you read in like fan fiction.
It's
like
so angsty.
Yeah, it's really angsty. Basically what it's about these two pen pals, and now their names are like gender neutral. Her name is Ryan and his name is Misha, so obviously that can get confused on like who's the girl and who's the boy. So it ended up where like the pen pals were supposed to be like girl talks to a girl, boy talks to a boy, like when you do like pen pals in like elementary school. And it ends up that these two get paired together and become really close friends, and they keep in touch through that. And then eventually he finds out like the truth about her because she's really not who she says that she is, and it's just a lot. Yeah, it's enemies to lovers, honestly, and it's so good though. Like it's done so well, and it's like
it deals a lot with bullying, which I thought is really
it deals with really like serious issues, and I feel like it does it in such a real way because this book, it's in they're high schoolers, but you don't feel like
it's not a young
like I feel like they're very mature, and the issues that like it deals with is very like it's like really well done. Like she does a really good job with those issues and like talking about them.
Penelope Douglas is just wonderful.
Yes.
The next book that we have to talk about is The Wall of Winnipeg and May by Mariana Zapata. And slow burn, if you guys love a good slow burn, this is the book for you. This book is it's about 670 pages, but it doesn't feel like it. I read it in like 3 days. Like it's so addicting and it's so good. And basically it's about this woman who she is working for this guy, and he's an athlete, he's a football player, and he's kind of like a jerk, and he basically like ignores her for a couple years. Like she's basically his assistant and he just completely disregards her, and she's just there. And then one day she's kind of like, okay, fuck you, I'm done, I'm leaving, I'm quitting, I'm moving on to bigger and better things. And eventually as time goes on, he comes crawling back to her and apologizes for everything and asks for her to help him out with something. And something happens where they end up basically in an arranged marriage. And so this whole book, they're married, but they're getting to know each other. And it's such a good slow burn because it builds from like, I don't really know you, to like, let's be friends, and like, let's actually fall in love. And yeah, that book, like, it's so satisfying. Like when it gets there, oh my god, it's so good.
The next book that we want to talk about is Archer's Voice by Mia Sheridan. So basically what this is about is it's a small town romance about this woman who moves to town, and she ends up meeting kind of like the outcast. He doesn't really fit in too much with everybody else in town, but they end up falling in love. And what's interesting about this book is that he doesn't speak, the guy in the book, which is very different from any other romance book that I've read. but it's really, really good because she knows sign language, so it's like different when they communicate.
It's a really emotional and like cute book though. Like it's really,
I feel like I cried while reading this book.
Yeah, but
it was a while ago, but I feel like this was definitely an emotional one.
It's touching, but it's also really sweet. Like it has its sweet and cute moments, but yeah, Archer's voice is so good. The next book that we want to talk about is It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. We love Colleen Hoover. We have read like all of her books, and
pretty much.
Yeah, I think It Ends With Us is such an important book, honestly. Like it's really hard to read at times, but it's just important. And like, I guess trigger warnings for like abuse, I would definitely tell you that, but it's really, really raw and it's emotional, and yeah, it's awesome. But yeah, it's any
Colleen Hoover book. If you haven't read Colleen Hoover in general, all of her books are like an experience. Like they're very just like I think I've cried reading every single one of her books. They're a lot.
Special shout out to Maybe Someday and Ugly Love, like those. Colleen Hoover, if you haven't read her, please read her.
The next book that we want to talk about is Well Met by Jen Zaluka. I love this book so much.
It makes me smile when I think of that book.
This is a newer release. And we like just read this recently.
I think it comes out in September. In like
oh my gosh, yes, we actually read an arc for it.
But you have to get it when it comes out.
This book, it was so good. So basically what it's about is there's like a Renaissance fair, and so this girl ends up doing the Renaissance fair for her niece because she ends up helping out her sister because her sister was in a car accident. So she like moves in with them and she's helping them out. So the only way that her niece can do the Renaissance fair is if she volunteers. So she ends up like helping the town. There's this guy, and so basically like he's the pirate, and she's like the tavern wench. So it's really, really cute in that way, and it's just like
it just makes me smile. That book,
it's so good. Yeah, it's very well developed too. It's not like Insta. It's like kind of a slow burn, I would say.
It is. Well, no,
and it's also like enemies to lovers,
because in the real world they don't like each other, but in the Renaissance fair they pretend to be dating
because it's like their characters like flirt and stuff, and it's just like
it's fantastic. It's just as good as it sounds. The next book I want to talk about is Devil in Winter by Lisa Kleypas. If you don't know, Lisa Kleypas is a phenomenal historical romance author, and yeah, I think the Wallflowers series is definitely where you should start with her. It's so great. It's about these 4 women, and they are really like shy and socially awkward, and so when at these balls they're wallflowers. They're stuck in the corner, really just watching everybody else and not feeling like included, and nobody really asks them to dance and stuff like that. And so they take it upon themselves to become friends, and each book follows them each trying to help the other one get a husband. So like they each try to find relationships and stuff. But Devil in Winter it's really, really good. It's an arranged marriage, and it takes place mostly in like a gambling hell, and the guy in it is actually the villain in the second book. But yeah, Devil in Winter is the 3rd book, and yeah, really read the Wallflower series. It's so good.
The next book that we want to talk about is On Honeymooners by Christina Lauren. This book was such a fun summer read, guys. So basically what it's about is it's about this girl and this guy, and it takes place at a wedding in the beginning, and then it ends up where like they all get sick. So it's like there's food poisoning at the wedding, and everybody is sick except for Olive and Ethan. And so it ends up being where Olive needs to go on her sister's honeymoon. So
and they hate each other.
Yeah,
that
so
makes it better.
Her sister is marrying Ethan's twin. So basically like they're both twins. So it works out where like Olive and Ethan can go on the honeymoon and pretend to be their sibling. So they don't like each other, they hate each other, so it makes it so much better. And they end up like going on the honeymoon, and they don't really talk too much at first. They avoid each other, but then eventually they start like doing things together, and
like everything
they have to keep up with the lie though. So that's why it's so funny, is because they run into people that they know during the honeymoon.
So they have to pretend and explain that they're married now.
So it's just like a wild time, but it oh my god, it was so good. And it was like when that moment, like when they finally like, guys.
Next book that we want to talk about is The Kiss Quotient and The Bride Test by Helen Huang. Basically, both of these books, it's a series, and they're both wonderful. And The Kiss Quotient is the first book. it follows this woman who has Asperger's, and she is really socially awkward, and she doesn't really understand romance and love and stuff like that. So in order to understand it, she hires an escort.
Yeah, so basically she wants to get like comfortable with it.
Yeah, and it's such a sweet romance. Like, oh my god, it's so...
Michael is very like gentleman-like too, because I feel like when you say like, oh, she hires an escort,
yeah,
it's like,
no, there's a reason why he's an escort too.
Yeah,
which,
like he has a lot of depth to him, which is really, really nice. And this
he's
this book,
really hot.
Yeah, and this book is actually very, very diverse. And that book was awesome. Yeah, I didn't read the second one yet.
The Bride Test is just as good as the first book, and it is kind of like it's the male bride order trope. So the mom wants her son to get married, and in this culture she basically brings this woman from their country and is like, okay, like, this is somebody who I want you to marry. And he's very like, no, oh my gosh. And they kind of get to know each other and eventually fall in love, and it's so sweet. It's definitely diverse if you're interested in that. It's a great romance.
The next book that we want to talk about is Fixer Up by Tessa Bailey. This is another book that we both read recently.
Yeah.
So
it just came out.
Yeah.
It just came out.
So basically what this book is about, it's about this girl, and she actually works as a clown. So she works as a clown. She meets this baseball player. He needs people to take him serious because he's trying to get a job as like a commentator. So they strike up this deal. So the whole deal is that he'll be taken serious because he has a girlfriend, so he won't be seen as like this guy who sleeps around, and then she'll be taken more serious by like everybody around her because she works as a clown. So she's looked down upon and like thought of as like this little kid. So they come up with like this deal, but it's very like, it's like enemies to lovers type book.
He knew her when she was a kid, but he always kind of like dismissed her. And
yeah, he wasn't very nice to her.
Yeah, because nobody in her life like takes her serious. And yeah, so when they come up with this idea to like be in like a relationship, they end up falling for each other, and they basically give each other that chance. And it's really steamy, this book. Like, it's really hot.
There's some great scenes.
There's some great sex scenes in this book. Yeah, definitely. Tessa Bailey is a great writer, and we highly recommend this one.
Yeah.
And the next book that we want to talk about is the Bridgerton series by Julia Quinn. This is actually going to be a Netflix show with Shonda Rhimes is creating it, and
it's so good.
It's gonna be so good. It's a historical romance, and it's basically this family, and they all have, there's 8 siblings, they each have a book, and there's a spin-off series, which is also great, but all the siblings go like in alphabetical order. Julia Quinn is really popular in the romance community. Like, she's so talented, and all of her books are really light and really fun and really quick to read. Like, I fly through like any book by Julia Quinn. She's just so talented. And the Bridgertons, it has so much heart, that series, and I really love them.
Go read it. The next book that we want to talk about is actually a series by Penelope Douglas, and it is the Devil's Night series.
This is a dark romance.
Yeah.
This is dark.
This is dark, guys, but it's really good. Especially, I feel like it's really good for like the fall, like Halloween, because it takes place like, it's like the night before Halloween.
Yeah,
right?
Devil's
It's like
Night.
Devil's Night, and basically it's like this
Four
group,
horsemen.
the 4 horsemen. So it's like, it's Will, Damon, Kai, and Michael, and they are such bad boys.
Oh my
They're
god.
so hot.
No, like,
and like each book there's 3 of them, and it follows a different guy. So the first one is Michael, and then it's
Kai, and then Damon, and we're waiting for Will's book to come out.
Yes.
But yeah, this series is basically, so these 4 horsemen, they did something on Devil's Night, and they went into prison, and now they're back on Devil's Night to wreak havoc in the town.
Yeah, they're trying to get revenge on the girl who they feel was responsible for landing them into prison.
And then they fall in love, and it's basically like each story takes place with kind of like a revenge type of aspect to it, and then they end up falling in love, and there is a past there with a lot of the relationships, and it's really dark and twisted. Like Penelope Douglas,
it is, yeah.
like the way I tell people is like she took the idea of like why do we like scary things? Like why do we go to these crazy haunted places?
Yeah, like being scared. Like you like to be scared.
You like that thrill.
Yeah, and she like put like a romantic twist on it, and it's so crazy. Yeah,
it's really it's wild. Like you guys should definitely read it, but do be aware it is dark.
Very dark, yes.
Next book that we want to talk about is Arrogant Devil by R.S. Gray. If you guys are in the mood for a really good rom-com, R.S. Gray is so good. She's so addicting to read. I love all of her books, but Arrogant Devil is basically about this woman, and she's married, but they're separated, and her life is very like high end and like rich and lavish like that. Like she has like she lives a very different lifestyle than our guy in it. And so basically what happens is she leaves her husband and she goes to stay with her sister, but her sister, like they're kind of like estranged because of like the life that she lives. It's not like they've drifted apart and everything. So but her sister ends up being away, and so she goes to this farm that her sister would work at, and she gets hired by the guy, and it's their love story, and he like hates her because he thinks that she's like this really like prissy bitch, and he's like a farm guy, and like he works like on like the ranch, and he ends up like obviously giving her work and being like, okay, like you could stay here. Like he takes her in while like the sister's away, and they fall in love, and it's enemies to lovers, and it is so addicting, and it's so good, and oh, it's a really great book.
The next book that we want to talk about is Smut by Karina Howell, and so this book is basically about this girl and this guy, and they are in an English class together in college, and they end up working together on a project. They get paired up, but then they kind of start writing like smut together. They start writing like romance together, and they're kind of like, we could do this, we can make money off of this. And it's really, really funny, and it's very steamy, this book. Yeah, it's really, really good.
Yeah, it's really good. Like the scenes that they write also are in it, and then
so it's like the scenes that they're writing is just like
they kind of
building
start
tension.
Yeah,
and then they kind of start like acting it out like as they're like writing to like get like a visual of like what they're writing, and it's just like, oh my god,
it's really steamy, but it's really light too. Like it's really funny.
Yeah, it's funny for sure. Yeah.
The next book that we want to talk about is Black Dagger Brotherhood series by J.R. Ward. This is a paranormal romance about these vampire warriors who protect their city, and they fall in love, and it's this whole giant world. I love J.R. Ward so much, and like all of the heroes in it, like all the guys are so damaged and like broken, a lot of them, because they've lived for so long, and yeah, it's their love story. I would say like if you like loved like paranormal romance back during like the Twilight years, you will love this book. Like this is like for adults, like paranormal romance. It's so good, and I'm really like, I love those books. There's a lot, like there's over like 20 books in this series.
Yeah, there's a lot.
There's a lot of books, but it is so worth it to just dive into, and you'll just get lost in it, and you'll be reading. Like some of them, like they're really thick, but they fly by, and yeah, we highly recommend the Black Dagger Brotherhood books.
The next book we want to talk about is Love in Other Words by Christina Lauren. This book is so good, guys. It's a second chance romance. So basically it's about Macy and Elliot, and they knew each other when they were really young. And I remember one thing I loved about this book is that they're very into reading, and something that they would do is that she would have like this like room where she had bookshelves, and they would hang out in there all day long. Like it's so cute, their friendship. Yeah. And so basically it goes back and forth between like when they're young and then when they're adults, so like, and then they end up like falling in love all over again, and it's just really good. It's so sweet, like second chance romances. I love it.
Speaking of second chance romance books, the next book that we want to talk about is Swear on This Life by Renee Carlino, and this is another second chance romance about these are kids, like they're kids in the beginning, and they kind of have this really like tragic life almost, and it's pretty sad.
It's kind of dark at parts.
They have a sad life in the beginning, but then it's years later, and then they meet again, and he basically wrote their story. Like, he wrote their love
he's like
story.
this big shot author, and he wrote their story without her knowing.
Yes.
So, yeah.
It's really good. Yeah. And it's really emotional. It has like a lot, it's very raw, this book, and
yeah, it is definitely raw.
Very addicting as well. Like, this book is really easy to read. Like, it's pretty, it's not that big,
it goes back and forth between the past and the present,
and they start to kind of parallel. And then like when you find out like what happened to them when they were kids, like it's obviously like the climax of the now too, so it goes back between past and present. I love when books do that. And yeah, this book is really, really good.
Yeah. The next book that we want to talk about is On the Island by Tracy Garvis Graves. Guys, this book was so good. I think I read this last summer maybe, or the summer before. Yeah.
It's such a good summer book.
Yeah, it's a really, really good summer book. So basically this follows this young boy. I think he's about like 16 maybe in the beginning of the book, and he's traveling with his tutor or his teacher, I think it was, I don't really remember. And so they're traveling on the plane and it crashes. So they're on this island together for a very, very long time.
There is an age gap. This is a student-teacher relationship.
It is, that sounds strange, but you have to think, like, they're on the island for so long and nothing like happens until they are he's way older and it's like legal and all of that.
He's also really wise for his age because he's recovering from cancer.
That too. And because I feel like he grew up on
they're literally on an island now.
So they really only have each other. And it's a really good summer read though.
While they're on the island, they have to figure out how to survive because some of the weather conditions are very extreme, and their environment is really like against them, and they have to.
I remember sitting on the beach reading this book being like, oh my god,
it's
because they're trying to survive. They're trying to figure out how to fish and how to live in this environment, and
they become like,
as they're doing that, they're dependent on one another, and they obviously fall in love, and it's really good. It's
really sweet, the romance in it. Definitely check it out. Then the last book that we have to talk about is Coldhearted Boss by R.S. Gray. There's another R.S. Gray book because she's fabulous. I love all of her books, but Coldhearted Boss is her most recent release. This book follows this woman who is really financially like not stable right now. Like, she's going through a lot financially, and she's really going through a really hard time. So when she's at this bar, this really like rich looking people come in, like this group of guys, and the guy gets really hot, and they end up in the bathroom almost having like they're about to hook up, and then she kind of is like, okay, like I'll meet you at the hotel,
but not before she swipes his wallet.
But then she takes his wallet from him, and then she feels like totally guilty, and she gives it back to the bartender, and that doesn't she doesn't steal from him. But he thinks that she has, and then they meet up again when she pretends to be a boy and goes to his like construction company, and he knows it's her like immediately because her disguise is like awful, and so then he makes her his personal assistant, and they live in like this cabin together in the woods, and it's so good and really like slow building, and it's a perfect enemies to lovers, and the way that, like, the progression of it, it's so good. And it's like the misunderstanding, because now he's being like a jerk to her, and he hates her because he thinks that she stole his wallet when she didn't.
So wonderful.
And she hates him because now all of a sudden she's being forced to work for him as like an assistant, and he's trying to make her life like living hell. And oh my god,
so good.
It's really good.
That's all the books that we have for you guys for today. If you enjoyed this video, let us know though, and if you have any recommendations for any other book related videos that you'd like to see, let us know down below. And yeah, our social media is also down below.
Let us know if you guys read any of these books, and if you enjoyed them as well, and let us know if you have any book recommendations for us, and we'd love to know all of your thoughts. Like, if you guys end up reading these, please let us know what you guys thought. We'd love to know all of like your opinions.
Thank you for watching.
Thank you for watching. Bye!